The High Assembly had seen thousands of species petition for entry into the Galactic Coalition. Most came with weapons demonstrations, technology displays, or economic projections that stretched across holographic screens like desperate promises. The humans arrived with a 12-year-old girl and a backpack. Ambassador Krell's secondary mandibles clicked in what his species considered polite confusion. He sat at the center of the crescent-shaped tribunal platform, flanked by representatives from 47 member civilizations. Each one had evolved past the barbaric need for conflict, had proven their worth through centuries of peaceful development. And here stood humanity's delegation, 3 adults in formal attire, and a child who was currently examining her fingernails with the intense focus usually reserved for quantum mathematics. "This is irregular," announced Coordinator Vesh from the leftmost seat. Her crystalline voice resonated through the chamber's perfect acoustics. "Human delegation, you understand that coalition membership requires proof of advanced conflict resolution capabilities. Your species still maintains standing armies. You wage wars over resources that could be synthesized. You, forgive the observation, barely qualify for consideration." The lead human diplomat, a woman named Catherine Wells, smiled with the kind of patience usually demonstrated by parents explaining why eating paint was inadvisable. "We understand completely, Coordinator. That's precisely why we brought Maya." The girl looked up, brown eyes utterly unremarkable by galactic standards, hair pulled back in something humans called a ponytail. She wore civilian clothing, soft fabrics in blue and gray, and those peculiar foot coverings they insisted on despite perfectly climate-controlled environments. Krell's threat assessment subroutine, standard biological augmentation for all assembly members, registered the child at .003 on the danger scale, a houseplant from Sector 9 rated higher. "A juvenile!" Vesh's tone could have frozen hydrogen. "You present a juvenile as proof of your species' readiness?" "We present Maya as proof of human potential," Catherine replied. "Your records show that coalition acceptance requires demonstration of either superior technology, unmatched diplomatic achievement, or, and I quote from Protocol 7-4, abilities that fundamentally alter the Assembly's understanding of what's possible." Krell accessed the referenced protocol. His optical implants flickered through 17,000 pages of bureaucratic text in 4 seconds. There it was, buried in subsection 92. A loophole older than some stellar formations, originally intended for energy-based life forms or species with genuinely incomprehensible abilities. Clever mammals. "Very well," Krell announced, his vocalization implants translating his species' guttural language into perfect common tongue. "Demonstrate." The humans exchanged glances. Catherine nodded to one of her companions, a broad-shouldered man named Marcus. Something. Krell hadn't bothered memorizing junior delegate designations. Marcus approached the center of the assembly floor and placed a metallic case on the presentation platform. "Inside this container," Marcus began, his voice carrying that particular human quality they called confidence, "are 48 objects, weapons specifically. Each one represents standard armament from different coalition species. Stun batons from Keyleth, plasma disruptors from the Nor Collective, graviton pulse rifles from your own shipyards, Ambassador Krell. All functional, all charged, all set to maximum non-lethal settings." Counselor Thex, a 6-armed being whose species had perfected pacifism through chemical evolution, leaned forward. "You intend to attack your own child? This is proof of development?" "Nobody's attacking anybody," Catherine said quickly. "Maya is going to demonstrate a human capability that we believe qualifies under Protocol 7-4, a capability that, until approximately 300 years ago, we didn't even know we possessed. 300 years, Vesh repeated. In galactic terms, that's an eye blink. You discovered this ability recently and believe it merits coalition consideration? We believe it changes the entire conversation about humanity's place in the galaxy, Catherine replied. Maya, whenever you're ready. The girl stood, stretched, like she was preparing for physical exercise rather than some kind of demonstration before the most powerful governing body in known space. She walked to the center of the platform, her soft shoes making almost no sound on the polished floor. Krell noticed something odd. The chamber held 147 beings, counting support staff and security. Every single one of them had stopped whatever task they'd been performing. Every eye, sensor, or perception organ had focused on the small human. Maya looked up at the assembly. Can someone open the case, please? I can't reach the locks. Marcus complied. The case opened with a hiss of pressurized seals. Inside, exactly as described, lay 48 weapons. They hummed with ready power, indicator lights showing full charges and active status. Together, they represented enough firepower to suppress a small rebellion. Here's the thing about humans, Maya said conversationally, as if she were discussing weather patterns rather than addressing the High Assembly. We're not the strongest species. We're definitely not the fastest. That much running makes my legs hurt. We don't have natural armor or biological weapons or telepathic abilities. She reached into the case and withdrew a Kalith stun baton. Blue electricity crackled along its length, enough voltage to incapacitate anything with a nervous system. But we have something else. Something we didn't understand until we started leaving Earth and meeting all of you. Something that makes us, well, us. The baton powered down. The electricity faded like morning fog under sunlight. The weapon's indicator light shifted from green to red. Dead. Complete silence in the chamber. Maya set down the baton and picked up a Nor-plasma disruptor. The weapon's containment field hummed with barely contained energy, enough superheated matter to punch through reinforced bulkheads. Hummed, then didn't. The containment field collapsed safely, the weapon's automatic shutdown protocols engaging before any plasma could escape. The disruptor became an expensive paperweight in the girl's small hands. Counselor Thex's arms began an involuntary defensive pattern, a genetic reflex his species had supposedly evolved past. She's disabling them? Some kind of electromagnetic pulse capability? No pulse, Catherine said. No technology, no tool or trick, just Maya, just human. The girl worked her way through the case. Graviton rifle, dead. Neural disruptor, offline. Sonic cannon, silent. Particle beam projector, inert. Each weapon, regardless of its operating principle or power source, ceased functioning the moment she held it with clear intent. Krell's threat assessment subroutine went haywire. The readings spiked to maximum, then crashed to 0, then spiked again. His implants couldn't categorize what they were witnessing. The girl wasn't using detectable energy. She wasn't manipulating electromagnetic fields or gravitational constants. She was just turning off weapons, willing them to stop. By the time Maya reached weapon number 30, half the assembly members had activated personal shields. By weapon 40, 3 species had requested emergency transport to their vessels. By weapon 48, when the last armament, an experimental phase disruptor that technically wasn't supposed to exist, powered down like an exhausted animal, the chamber had descended into barely controlled panic. Maya placed the final weapon back in the case. She looked up at Krell, at Vesh, at the assembled representatives of galactic civilization, and shrugged. That's the thing about being human. We reject violence so hard, so completely, that reality itself listens. It's not magic, before anyone asks. We had scientists explain it once, something about quantum observation and conscious collapse of probability fields. But honestly, I was 9 when they gave that presentation, and it was super boring. Impossible, Vesh stated flatly. Matter and energy don't obey consciousness. That's fundamental physics. That's why we have physics. It shouldn't work, Catherine agreed. According to every established scientific principle, what you just witnessed shouldn't be possible. But here's the interesting part. It only works for humans. We've tested it across 72 research facilities. Other species can't replicate it. Artificial intelligence can't replicate it. It's something in how human consciousness interacts with what we perceive as tools of violence. Marcosi picked up the explanation. 340 years ago, a human named Dr. Elena Vasquez was conducting research on meditation and brain activity. She discovered that certain mental states, specifically states focused on absolute rejection of harm, created measurable effects on electronic systems. Small effects, easily dismissed as equipment malfunction. Except the effects weren't malfunctions, Catherine continued. They were consistent, reproducible. And they only occurred when humans achieved that specific mental state while holding or focusing on weapons. Dr. Vasquez's research led to a global initiative. We trained people, thousands of them, to access that rejection state. And we discovered something incredible. Maya had returned to examining her fingernails. She looked profoundly bored by the adult's explanation. Every human has this capability, Marcus said. Some stronger than others, like any trait. But every human, if properly trained and focused, can reject violence so completely that weapons cease to function. We call it the negation response. It's not telepathy or telekinesis or any conventional power. It's just us, being human, being so tired of hurting each other that we developed the ability to make it stop. Krell found his voice, though it came out as more of a croak than his usual authoritative tone. This is, your petition for membership isn't about your technology or your diplomacy. You're claiming that humans are, what? Natural peacekeepers? We're claiming that humanity brings something unique to the coalition, Catherine said. Yes, we still have conflicts. Yes, we're messy and complicated, and we argue about literally everything. But we also have this, the ability to shut down violence through sheer force of will, and we're offering to share it. Share it? Counselor Thex's voice carried layers of disbelief. You stated that other species cannot replicate this ability. They can't replicate it, Catherine agreed, but they can benefit from it. Humans stationed at conflict zones, human observers in war negotiations, human peacekeepers in disputed territories. We can't end all violence. We're not that powerful. But we can end it in proximity, within line of sight. With focus and training, a single human can create a violence-free zone extending roughly 150 meters in all directions. The implications crashed through the assembly like a gravitational wave. Krell saw the calculations running behind his colleagues' eyes. Disputed mining rights in the Tertian Nebula resolved because weapons wouldn't function. The border conflicts between the Keyleth and the Yoran Collective neutralized because neither side could maintain armed presence. Piracy in the outer sectors eliminated because raiders couldn't operate their weapons. This is why you brought a child, Vesh said slowly, to demonstrate that this ability isn't limited to trained soldiers or specialists, that even your young possess this capability. Maya is one of our strongest natural negators, Catherine admitted, But yes, the point stands. This isn't a weapon we're offering, Coordinator. It's a fundamental aspect of human neurology. We can't not have it, and we believe it's exactly what Protocol 7-4 was designed to accommodate. An ability that fundamentally alters the Assembly's understanding of what's possible. Krell accessed his threat assessment subroutine again. The readings had stabilized, but not in any way he understood. The system kept trying to classify Maya as simultaneously zero threat and maximum threat. A being who couldn't harm anyone, but who could render everyone else equally harmless. The math made his brain hurt. "I have questions," he announced. "Many, many questions. Starting with, does this ability work on all weapons? What about biological weapons? Chemical agents? What defines a weapon in human perception?" Catherine smiled. "Those are excellent questions, Ambassador. And we have approximately 4,000 pages of research documentation ready to share. But here's the simple version. If a human perceives something as designed to cause harm and focuses their rejection response on it, that thing becomes inert. We've shut down bombs mid-explosion. We've neutralized toxins before they could spread. We've stopped kinetic impactors moving at relativistic speeds. You've stopped relativistic impactors. Counselor Thex's arms had frozen mid-gesture. That's not consciousness affecting matter. That's consciousness affecting fundamental forces. That's terrifying. It's limiting, Marcus corrected. A negator can only affect what they're aware of and focused on. You can't shut down a weapon you don't know exists. You can't stop an attack from beyond your perception range. We're not gods, Counselor. We're just humans who really, really hate violence. Maya yawned, covering her mouth with one hand, while the most powerful beings in the galaxy processed information that threatened to rewrite civilizational assumptions. "Are we almost done? Dad said we could get ice cream after this, and I want to try that Keyleth place that makes the flavors with the glowing swirls." The silence that followed Maya's ice cream request lasted exactly 7.3 seconds. Krell knew because his chronometer implant logged it automatically. One of those details that consciousness fixates on when processing impossible information. Then the chamber erupted. 47 species, each with their own communication methods, all attempting to speak simultaneously. Vesh's crystalline voice shattered into harmonic fragments. Counselor Thex's arms moved through gestures so rapidly they blurred. 3 representatives from gas giant civilizations expanded their containment fields in what Krell recognized as their equivalent of shouting. "Order!" Krell's vocalization implants amplified his voice until the chamber's acoustic dampeners engaged. "We will address this systematically, not like scavengers fighting over scraps." The noise subsided. Mostly. Several delegates continued what appeared to be heated arguments with their own staff members, but at least the general chaos had downgraded to manageable pandemonium. Ambassador Torin from the Virex Concordat stood, his scaled features arranged in what passed for skepticism among his people. "I propose immediate verification. We cannot accept such claims on demonstration alone. For all we know, those weapons were sabotaged beforehand." "Reasonable concern," Catherine acknowledged. "Ambassador Torin, you're carrying a personal defense shield generator, correct? Standard issue for Vrex diplomats. Model 7-12, if your uniform insignia indicates current rank." Torin's hand moved instinctively to the device attached to his belt. "That is, yes. How did you—" "My assistant researched coalition security protocols," Catherine interrupted. "Maya, would you mind?" The girl hopped down from where she'd been sitting on the edge of the presentation platform. She walked toward Torin with the casual stride of someone heading to a playground, rather than approaching an alien being 3 times her size. Excuse me, sir?" Maya stopped a respectful distance away. "Could you activate your shield? The adults need me to turn it off so everyone stops arguing." Torin looked at Krell. Krell's mandibles clicked in what he hoped approximated approval. The Vrex ambassador touched his belt device. A shimmer of energy enveloped him, a personal barrier capable of withstanding small arms fire and environmental hazards. Maya closed her eyes. Her breathing slowed, became rhythmic. The casual boredom that had characterized her demeanor vanished, replaced by something that made Krell's threat assessment subroutine spike again. Concentration. Intent. Purpose. The shield flickered. Once, twice, then collapsed entirely. Torin stumbled slightly, the sudden absence of the field's electromagnetic pressure catching him off guard. "That device was inspected this morning," Torin said quietly. "Full charge. Perfect functionality. I need to sit down." "Anyone else?" Catherine's question carried no smugness, just professional inquiry. "We can continue demonstrations all day. Maya's been training for this presentation since she was 8. She finds it tedious, as you've noticed, but she's remarkably good at it." Counselor Vesh had regained her composure, though her voice still carried tremors. "Let us assume, for the moment, that this ability is genuine, that humans possess this negation response. The strategic implications are staggering. You realize that every coalition member species is now calculating how to either acquire or neutralize this capability." "We anticipated that," Marcus said, "which is why we're not offering it as a trade resource or bargaining chip. We're offering ourselves, human peacekeepers, human observers, human consultants. We become the ability. You can't weaponize us because the whole point is that we shut down weapons." "You could still be compelled," Vesh countered. "Held hostage, coerced into service through threats to your families or homeworlds." Catherine's smile disappeared. When she spoke again, her voice carried permafrost. "Coordinator, I need you to understand something fundamental about humans. We are, and I mean this with complete sincerity, spectacularly bad at being controlled. We've fought wars lasting decades over abstract principles. We've chosen extinction-level consequences rather than submit to tyranny. You try to force a human to do something against their will, especially something involving their negation ability? They'll shut down every weapon in range and dare you to try making them cooperate without them." Maya had wandered back to the weapons case. She was arranging the disabled armaments by size, creating a neat little lineup like toys. "Miss Catherine is being polite," the girl said without looking up. "What she means is we get really stubborn when people are mean to us. Like really, really stubborn. My instructor said humans would rather break reality than break principles, which I guess is what we're doing with the whole making weapons stop thing." Krell accessed historical files on humanity. Conflict records, resistance movements, documentation of what humans called revolutions. The pattern was undeniable. When pressed, humans didn't surrender. They adapted, persisted, or destroyed everything including themselves, rather than submit. It made them dangerous, in an entirely different way, than conventional threats. "So your proposal," Krell said slowly, working through the implications, "is that humanity joins the coalition as, what, peacekeepers for hire?" "Not for hire," Catherine corrected. "As equal members contributing unique capabilities. You need mediators in a war zone. Humans volunteer. You have disputed territory where both sides keep escalating. Human observers create neutral ground. You encounter a species that communicates through violence. Yes, That's happened twice, according to your records. Humans can interact safely because violence doesn't work around us. But you still maintain militaries, Counselor Thex pointed out. Your own species still fights among yourselves. How do you reconcile claiming to be natural peacekeepers while participating in warfare? Marcus fielded this question. Because we're not claiming to be perfect, Counselor. We're claiming to be useful. Yes, humans fight. Yes, we have conflicts. But we also have this ability that no one else has. And when we use it, when we really commit to rejecting violence, weapons stop working. Period. Our internal conflicts don't change that external capability. It's like how doctors still get sick, Maya added helpfully. But that doesn't mean they can't help other people. My mom's a doctor. She had the flu last year, but she still went to work because other people needed her. The child's simplistic logic cut through layers of diplomatic complexity. Krell found himself nodding before he consciously processed why. Ambassador Torin had recovered enough to rejoin the conversation. I propose a practical test, not demonstrations with prepared equipment, but actual field deployment. There is a situation in the outer margin. 2 mining corporations disputing claim rights. It hasn't escalated to violence yet, but both sides have armed vessels in system. If humanity is sincere about this capability, send your peacekeepers. Let us observe. Catherine and Marcus exchanged glances. Some silent communication passed between them, the kind of wordless understanding that came from working together extensively. We accept, Catherine said, with conditions. First, our peacekeepers operate under human command structure. You don't get to dictate our tactics. Second, if violence is prevented successfully, we expect formal consideration for coalition membership. Third, Maya goes home and gets that ice cream because she's 12 and has been sitting through bureaucratic nonsense for 4 hours. 4 hours and 17 minutes, Maya muttered, and the glowing swirl place closes at 6, so we need to decide soon. Vesh's crystalline laughter filled the chamber, a sound like wind chimes in a hurricane. Very well. I support Ambassador Torin's proposal. Field testing under observation. If humans can prevent violence in an actual conflict scenario, we reconvene and vote on coalition membership. Agreed? The vote occurred through each species' preferred method. Some verbal, some gesture-based, some through color changes or electromagnetic signaling. But the result was unanimous. Krell found it darkly amusing. The High Assembly, which typically required months of deliberation to approve cafeteria menu changes, had just agreed to a precedent-shattering decision in under 5 hours. Humans apparently had that effect. One additional question, Krell said, as the formal voting concluded. Maya, you said your instructor told you that humans break reality rather than principles. What principles are you personally refusing to break? What drives your negation ability? The girl looked up from her weapon arrangement. She'd organized all 48 armaments into a spiral pattern, largest at the center, smallest at the edges. For no apparent reason, except perhaps it pleased her aesthetically. That's easy, Maya said. I don't want people to hurt each other. Like, ever. I know sometimes people get angry or scared, and I know sometimes there are really complicated reasons why grown-ups think violence is necessary. But I don't care about complicated reasons. Hurting people is wrong. Making tools specifically to hurt people is wrong. So when I hold something designed for hurting, I just refuse. I think really hard about refusing. And the universe listens. The universe listens to a 12-year-old child, Vesh repeated softly. That may be the most human thing I've heard today. The universe listens to conviction, Catherine corrected. Age doesn't matter. Training helps. Focus is essential. But the core of the negation response is absolute rejection of violence. Maya has that naturally. She's always had it, even before we identified what it was. Some humans train for years to achieve what she does instinctively. And others never develop it at all? Counselor Thex asked. About 15% of humans can't access the negation response regardless of training, Marcus confirmed. We don't know why. Best theory is that it requires a certain neurological configuration combined with genuine philosophical commitment. You can't fake it. You can't force it. You have to really, truly, in your core being, reject violence. Otherwise, the ability doesn't manifest. Krell considered this. A species where only 85% could access their unique capability. But 85% of 8 billion humans, that was still, he did the calculation, roughly 6.8 billion potential negators. Even if only a fraction received training, even if only a percentage chose to serve as peacekeepers, the numbers staggered imagination. The outer margin situation, Krell said, pulling the conversation back to practical matters. How many peacekeepers would you deploy? For a corporate dispute? Probably 20, Catherine replied. Enough to maintain overlapping coverage zones, ensure 24-hour presence, and provide redundancy if anyone gets sick or needs rest. We'd also bring support staff, but the actual negators would number around 20. 20 humans to prevent 2 armed fleets from engaging in combat, Torrin said. Either this works and changes everything, or it fails, and humanity becomes a historical curiosity remembered for making extraordinary claims. No pressure, though, Maya said cheerfully. She'd finished her spiral and was now attempting to balance a plasma disruptor on top of a graviton rifle. Oh, that reminds me. If anyone shoots at our people during the test, we're all going to be really upset. Like, formally complain to the assembly, upset. Just so everyone knows. If anyone shoots at your people, they'll find their weapons don't function, Vesh pointed out. Right, but it's rude to try. My instructor says intent matters almost as much as action. Someone who tries to hurt people but fails is still someone who tried to hurt people. The child's moral clarity was somehow both refreshing and unsettling. Krell had spent 3 centuries in diplomatic service, had navigated ethical complexities that required teams of specialists to untangle. And here was a juvenile human, explaining harm and intent like they were self-evident truths that required no elaboration. Perhaps they were. Perhaps humans, for all their violence and conflict, understood harm in ways that species who'd evolved past warfare no longer grasped. We adjourn until field test results are available, Krell announced. Human delegation, coordinate with Ambassador Torrin regarding deployment to the outer margin. This assembly will reconvene in, shall we say, 30 standard days. That should provide sufficient time for travel and observation. 30 days works, Catherine agreed. She was already gathering data tablets and documentation. Marcus had closed the weapons case, sealing 48 disabled armaments back into containment. Maya hopped down from the platform, landing with the resilience that human children somehow possessed. Finally, Miss Catherine, can we stop by the Keyleth place on the way back to the ship? Please? I've been good all day, and I only complained about being bored like 3 times. You complained 7 times, Catherine said, but she was smiling. But yes, ice cream is acceptable. You did well today, Maya. Your parents will be proud. They'll be proud when I don't accidentally break the ice cream machine, Maya replied. That happened last time. The power thing gets weird around food processors for some reason. The human delegation departed, Krell watched them go, 3 adults and a child who had collectively shaken the foundations of galactic governance. The chamber slowly emptied as other delegates left, no doubt rushing to contact their homeworlds with news. Counselor Thex remained, his 6 arms folded in contemplation. Ambassador Krell, are we making a catastrophic mistake? Possibly, Krell admitted. Or we're witnessing the emergence of something genuinely unprecedented. A species that evolved violence to such extremes that they developed biological countermeasures. Natural selection taking a very strange path. And if it fails? If humans cannot prevent violence in practical applications? Then we politely decline their membership application and add a fascinating footnote to Xenobiological Archives, Krell said. But if it succeeds, Thex, if it actually succeeds, then we're adding 8 billion living weapons to the coalition, Thex finished. Weapons that only work in defense, only activate against harm, but weapons nonetheless. I prefer to think of them as 8 billion reasons why violence might finally become obsolete, Krell replied, though I admit both interpretations have merit. Somewhere in the station's commercial district, a 12-year-old human was probably arguing about ice cream flavors while carrying the weight of her species' galactic future on shoulders that barely reached adult waist height. Krell accessed weather data for no particular reason. Outside the station, local space was calm. No storms, no unusual radiation, no threats. Inside, the entire galaxy had just shifted on its axis. He wondered if Maya's ice cream place was any good. Humans seemed to take food very seriously. Perhaps he should try their recommendations. After 30 days. After the field test. After they learned whether humanity's bizarre gift was salvation or simply one more complexity in an already complicated universe. But, probably, Krell admitted to himself, it was both. It was always both.